Good evening, everyone. My name is Cassandra, and I thought I'd come on and get a little personal with you on growing what I consider to be the right way to build a brand. Sit with that for just a second. Is there a right way to build a brand? I believe, in my personal opinion, there is a right way to build a brand. And that right way to build a brand is to be yourself, have something interesting to talk about, meaning you're passionate about something, meaning you don't have to know about everything about that thing, but you have to be willing to study and learn it. Have something that you want to generate in the experience of giving to other people. And in that giving space of what you want to educate other people on, you have to be grounded in who you are, to stay humble in who you are as a person. But also you have to be courageous enough to fight against the person on the other side who is in a blind spot about who they're being in a moment-to-moment basis. That's when you can become a true social media influencer and educator. So let me give you an example of fitness. I like to always go back to fitness because it's like real results that you can measure with weight or calories. When you're being influenced by someone and the influencer gives you all the tools, it's literally a formula of science. And then you are not doing what the influencer is telling you to do, and you're having cakes and cookies secretly, and then you lie to your influencer, and then you go to your influencer and say, well, why am I not losing weight? But then you get mad at the influencer. Now, the influencer who's a fitness influencer has to be courageous and strong enough to know what their intention is, what they're educating an audience on, and stand against whatever demon that person is battling or problem that person's battling over there, because that makes them a good coach and a good leader. That means the influencer has to say, well, why are you eating cookies? Are you eating cookies? You're going to get pushback from the person who got caught. And that makes a good leader because you're willing to speak out the truth instead of stepping over something, because in those situations, that person wants real results for the follower. I'm getting a little bit like targeted in the sense of like maybe that person has a meal plan, or, there are cookie cutter answers, but generally that's the way to go. But even if you're like not directly speaking to this person and this person has the same concern, this person's paying and this person's not, this person and this person, who are both your fans, are dealing with the same thing, meaning you're actually dealing with the problem collectively and handling it as leading by example as your fan and follower, which then leaves them to expand and grow as a person while educating the rest of the group. That's part of being an influencer. So actually just kind of digressing, but I came on to talk about the process of where I'm at with my creation and why I'm not getting a lot of hoopla of you're awesome, you're awesome, you're awesome, is because when I started creating my content, I knew that I was going to stand up for humanity against the devil. There's other things going on that are rotten. They're really rotten, and it all has to do with social media, politics. It has to do with children. It has to do with other social media influencers, as I am being bullied. But I wanted to change that for the masses, so that even you're going to go through a lot of the same things that I went through, but not like the intensity of what I've gone through when my stuff goes viral. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So, and this is good for you as you grow your platform, and there's a discussion around the conversation of this lull, like you could call it a lull, like when you're first starting out and you have 4 followers. You have like no followers. I don't particularly like having followers. I can read the energy in the room whether I have followers or not. Your followers are my followers. The problem that I had with creating my content is that I had so much information that I didn't have a one course of person that I wanted to assist. So I ended up making like 4 different TikTok pages. It's actually more than that. 2 YouTube pages now because I want one for kids and one for adults. I had 2 Instagram accounts as well as several Facebook accounts. So I'm like multi-dimensional. And in the beginning, I found it kind of complicated on how I was going to present the work. And so instead of questioning myself as I had at that time, it occurred to me as if I had 0 followers as I just started producing. And then I thought to myself as I was producing that I was going to produce and let the audience tell me to some degree on which way that we would take this. It's like listening to your audience speak to you and then working with logics and creativity grounded in education associated with a business. Meaning the industries of life are evolving into utilizing robots, but human is now becoming the market. Being a human is very, feel like I'm the only human left on the planet. Honestly, I feel like I'm the only human left on the planet. Think about that for someone who is questioning things in their lifetime. They don't have the same kind of connection to human like we used to have. Which means that if you went through a growth phase in your personal life prior to this time frame we're in, and you really did real concrete work, you're a valuable product. Because services are education. And then services can be coaching, but it can also be tied to a product. So when you buy someone's product that's not intelligent and who has nothing to educate, you're actually energetically causing yourself to gain weight. You're actually downplaying who you are if you just bought something like anything from Mr. Beast. You're actually a slob on the couch with gravy juice all over your shirt. That's what I think about when I see Mr. Beast. It's like Lord of the Flies over there with him. He spends $150,000 to manipulate your minds by evaluating how his thumbnail affected you. When all of his thumbnails are basically him showing off yachts and boats and money versus giving real information. He's a regurgitator. My platform is very, very different. As some of you may be following me on my TikTok platform or even my YouTube page, like this page, you'll see that I have a lot of association to VFriends. And today I was actually thinking about the evolution of how I wanted to participate with Gary Vaynerchuk's creativity, because it's if you want something to be Disney, then you participate in creating. And the strongest education wins, really. And I'm grounded in everything that's associated to VFriends because I've done all of the work that's associated to all these beautiful characters that were created. And I actually have a love connection for VFriends. Like love connection. Like I'm in love with Cynical Cat, and I'm in love with Alpha Alligator, and I'm in love with Aspiring Alpaca. Like I absolutely love these characters, and I also used to love Disney. Like I'm like a huge fan of cartoons. I'm all into everything that Gary was into growing up, as far as like He-Man and She-Ra, and then life happened, and then people were born, like born into new versions of themselves. So I got to watch people turn into shitheads associated to the things that used to make me feel a certain way. Do you see? Now, what went through a lot of these kids, I actually watched some of the old, I've been like doing some research too on the newer stuff, like the Chronicles of Spiderwick. And I thought to myself, no wonder these millennial Gen Zs are psychotic. Like, it's amazing to me the advancements of cartoons and how demonic they've become. I mean, we had more along the lines of fantasy, but like raising your vibration. I'm trying to think of one that was kind of dark. I actually did a what do you call it? A photo with the reliable rat. And I cannot for the life of remember the name of this cartoon, but it'll come to me and eventually I'll share it with you. Something of the Nile or something. Some of you might remember it, even though I don't remember it. But it was inspired by that video, or that picture I did. And I didn't even realize it was inspired by that until after I chose the things that I chose. And so that's part of the way that I create. But even that was something that didn't make me feel the way Chronicles of Spiderwick made me feel as I turned it off like 20 minutes in. Not to say that the story was bad, it's just the creation associated to it was very, very bad. Because people don't take into consideration that everything you create becomes fact. Because if you have a voluminous amount of people thinking one way, it becomes embodied in the characters. And so I wanted to create associated to already beautiful characters, which already have very talented artistic attachment to them, in a way that was very emotionally advancing. Because I don't believe that all characters, well, I believe that the characters are multidimensional, first of all. But I also don't believe that everything with ambitious angel is a positive trait. I just don't believe that. Being too ambitious, you might actually run people over. And then you could stand there and look like an angel when you're not an angel, you're abusive. You could be wearing the fearless fairy costume instead of being fearless. You're completely fearful and you're not empowered in anything, and you're so fearless that you run people over and you abuse them. That's not fearless, that's fearful. The key with my work is you have to know when it's appropriate in situations to where people are actually, and I've had this conversation before, is when people are actually just dealing with shit in their life, which is the way we used to work, where we are today, which is everybody has a rotten mindset based on our political system, that there are no rules and no laws, that people are even posting about it. They're blinded by money and clout and fame. And you can't talk to somebody who is famous. In their mind, they're famous. But honestly, no one knows who Dixie D'Amelio is, except for you and the network. Yet she walks around as if she's something special and abuses everybody. So when you have people like that in existence, you cannot talk to them like they're little sweet, innocent individuals. You have to show up in a way that either they're going to hear you and change, which they will not, or you as the audience will hear what you're saying so that you'll change. That's called building the biggest building. What eventually happens with individuals like that, which they don't consider because they are all very young, is that they think that this fame bullcrap is going to last them forever. Even these older folks who are going strong on COVID fame, people are already tired of watching them romanticize each other at casinos. They're tired of watching them with all their money shoving in their faces. They're just tired of it. They want like human connection. And they're just tired of it. And so when I watched the V-friends start coming out and watching the behavior associated to them, I got very disturbed. Very money focused and not focused on the fact that Brave Bison could offer a Disney experience. As I'm familiar with Disney, and I've been to Disney a bunch of times, by the way, that Brave Bison could offer a child, an adult, or someone starting in business the opportunity to be supported by a character that would help them grow in business, or a child in being brave about something that would expand as they grew to create nostalgia, which is actually what Disney is, to where grown-ups who were once children and remembered cuddling with something that was in the shape of blobfish. Because blobfish, the word made them laugh, and they were actually kind of bashful. And they got it for Christmas one year. But then they could actually overcome being bashful, which is why I know that I can assist the educational pieces when it comes to being a balanced beetle, as I do have an education in yoga. So the opportunities for a laid out business plan to assist this community in evolving these characters was first and foremost about other people. Although it would have occurred to some of you as if I was looking to get paid, which is something that continuously comes up for other people. Going to be very open and honest is I pretty much gave up my entire career as things in my life developed with the career that were quite toxic, as well as the inability to work in the public based off of the lessons that I was learning while working with social media. As I am Jesus this lifetime. So I can take this in the way that's like totally your old ways of like no fantasy. Like it's not really even fantasy, but it's like, it's hard to explain, of like humanistic. That's not true, like the not true of like God. You think God's in a book versus God in a spiritual sense. We could take it that route. We could take it both routes, meaning I have more spiritual abilities in my pinky finger than you do in your whole entire world, actually. I'm sorry, it's just the truth. Because what I'm seeing too, because I have so much multidimensional abilities, is everything I creates some kind of movement on earth. Because I can feel it physically inside me. And not in a good way. It's like horror and jealousy. Because I want to help children. Because I want people to live in peace. And I want people to use Alert Ape when they're not feeling so good at work. And you walk in the door and you look and say, the boss is alert Ape, everybody. The boss is in a bad mood. Or we're hanging out with Candy Clownfish today, and we're going to watch a little kids cartoon that we created associated Candy Clownfish. And then Candy Clownfish is not only a cartoon for a kid, but Candy Clownfish you could play in the middle of your business meeting to show people a little mini story on how to behave, because people will often forget when they get older on how to be a good person. And then I actually came on because I wanted to tell you a little bit about the advancement of It was a spur of the moment to create the photographs in art form. And then I just couldn't stop. It's like this sensation inside of me of like, it was painful to create it too, by the way. It was not an easy feeling of complete utter jealousy and the advancement of something that I knew that was going to make a difference. Because even now, every night I go and look through my art and I am just like, I'm like, did I make that? That is crazy. And I'm like, I forget how I made it. But during the process, I had like head hits. It's all connection to human, by the way. I had head hits. I was being violently abused by the female people like Mona Van and Kim Kardashian. I knew it was them. They were doing witchcraft and spells against me, which is why it's so appalling for me to see these folks at the casino night where they're with a bunch of other demon people, where I know they were doing more witchcraft, or at least attempting. It's how they get you to buy their products, and to get you to how they get you to stop being human so they can be royalty. They call it reptile royalty. On the second phase of where we're at, which is creating videos associated to the artwork that I've created, I am not struggling. It's heavy weighted and it's energy. It's a lot of work. And I know at some point I have ideas of where I'm going to take it for all 3 platforms, which is the adult YouTube page, which is where I am here, and then also the child's YouTube, and then also the TikTok platforms, which there's 4. And so strategy-wise, if I do 268 pieces of content in the next 3 weeks this month, because I know at some point I'll go back into my work zone. And the best way to work if you're a creator is to not be bothered by anybody. Because other people will try to stop you from creating. Do you understand? They won't consciously even know that some of them are doing it to you. They'll ask you to stop and go over there, but they don't realize that when you're in flow with creativity, that you can't stop, otherwise it stops you from the flow. So when they come up to you and they want to talk and you're in creative flow, they've literally set you on another trajectory, especially with the kind of work that I'm up to. What else is going to say? So with the videos that I'm making, there are actually subtle messages in the videos that I'm not even aware that are being created from source to the audience. And some of them, I'm literally making these videos on the fly is also what I want to tell you. These aren't videos I sit there and think about for even 10 minutes. I literally make them in 5 minutes. And that's not to brag, but that's what happens when you're able to create freely. You could do it too, and it'll be completely different than what I create. But guess what? You continue to support the Kim Kardashians. You continue to support people like Mona Van, who literally goes onto her platform to say, there's a spotting of Mona Van at some salad shop, as she puts lettuce in a box to do takeout. And there's nothing wrong with your business, but there's everything wrong with the advertising that you're affiliated with. Then she goes on to her Insta story, where she's posted seduction pictures and videos, because she strategically placed them on Sunday because she knew on Monday she was going to talk about your business. And you thought because you were doing a brand deal with Mona Van, who's allegedly dating this dude, that your business was going to grow. And I totally understand that also. However, what you didn't realize was she's a complete moron. She's self-centered and self-righteous, although you should have seen it with the protein powder. The BCAA powder that she's not representing and she barely educates on, and she got in trouble for not educating the audience on it. And she's still just taking it, holding it, and pouring it in a glass. That's not how you educate. To where she then goes onto her platform to say, well, what do you think? Tell me what you think. That's not what your audience is supposed to do. That's your job. And that's the problem with all these content creators that you all are doing brand deals with, is you think because they look good and they sound pretty, that you're actually selling the product. But what you're actually doing is you're only selling to their community, and the rest of their community is actually paid for by themselves. Do you understand what I'm saying? So Motivan has 400,000 followers, and then she has an elite circle of psychopaths just like herself, and they all go onto her platform when they know that she's posted, and they have little segments where they'll post on each other's platform to make sure the verified account is seen, and they'll tell her how wonderful she is. Then there'll be a post of Gary Vaynerchuk, and they'll specifically go on to, she'll text people, Gary posted something. And then today she wrote, you, heart, heart, heart. Which is grotesque in itself. No matter whether I'm with you, whether I'm not with you, whether you're dating that person over there and I don't have no interest in you, you're 22 years old. That's nasty. That's not advertising. That's grotesque. That means you're utilizing a man to grow your business, and it's working. Right now it's working. But that's not real life. Meaning he probably got her that brand deal because he's doing the same thing over with Jolly Jacko, Andy's Coffee. Meaning there's some rotten ass shit going on up in here. Meaning these people ain't good people. This is called reptile royalty, and this is how you create a web that you can never turn back from. Because people like Motivan turn into psychopaths, and they block out the rest of you from succeeding because she wrote underneath Gary Vaynerchuk's comment that said, you, heart, heart, heart. And then the salad place said, oh, you're so attractive and you have 400,000 bot followers. We'll pay you to do a brand deal with us. We'll do a collab. You're a so-called doctor, didn't ask for your medical degree. So then I decided that when all of this shit started, that I needed to do something with VFriends because I wasn't going to let this trash slut do anything with VFriends, even though he kissed her on the mouth at the very first session. And again, and then held her hand when he had been communicating with me for 4 years prior to this and instigating me on and on and on to continue to produce content. To the point that we were romantically involved, to where he baited and switched me that day. Actually, it was prior to that. It was one of their first posts that were posted together. That was the most heartbreaking day of my life, which you might want to consider that it's not real, and that someone like Motivan would do that to somebody and they knew what was happening for branding deals. But he also agreed to it. And you'll also want to see the evolution of where branding is going at this time. And I'm going to tell you that ain't going to fly. So as I start to embark on the videos of producing educational pieces that you think are not educational and that they might seem goofy or they might seem pointless, it's because you're pointless. It's because you're not up to anything. You lack patience. You lack care for humanity. And you see nothing of value except for big titties and buttholes and seduction. My chapter, my education is honest, authentic education. It's that you're not willing to listen and your mind is being eaten alive by your COVID vaccine or your alien encounters. And so that's a little education on branding. Branding is being yourself and finding your tribe. People don't even understand their tribe. See, the way that tribe works right now is finding anybody who will pay you, having no ethics around who you pick, unless you're the elite of the elite, and they solely base their tribe on who they're dating, what they look like, and what they're willing to do to compete with each other. That's pretty sadistic. And the fact that no one seems to think there's anything wrong with what these millennial Gen Zs are up to and that you're actually dating them says a lot about your morals. Because ultimately, the numbers that are the biggest are the ones responsible for all of this. That means the Democrats are responsible for this. Meaning, I've had this discussion with you before, that the Democrats have sold out the United States of America to China. And so if they sold us out to China, who owns the Chinese app and who chose who was going to go viral on the platforms to dumb down society and destroy the planet? And so not only should the United States of America be upset about what the Democrats have done, but the entire globe should be pissed off. Because America sets the tone for the entire world. And watching these ghetto ass hoes standing up saying no one's above the law. Obviously people are above the law, like Biden, if he's able to do whatever he wants. And abuse a real president. Because you know he's got shit on you. And that's the truth. So when you watch me get upset and angry, you might want to consider it isn't even about the person you always go to, as in pointing fingers at Gary Vaynerchuk. You might be thinking it's Gary Vaynerchuk, but the reality is there's a million people standing around doing the exact same thing, and he's just playing a role in a reality television show. You really need to take a look at the historical work ethic, the historical educational pieces that Gary Vaynerchuk, which I know inside and out, on how he's been disgusted by people like her. Like, he can't stand them. And it's kind of embarrassing that she still, will live up to the fact that he's pretending, even with the photographs to show that he fucking hates her. She'll even post it. Meaning we saw it in the video, in the recent pictures yesterday. So the other side that you want to understand, which I didn't say in the beginning, was the other half was, and I didn't realize this was going on until this whole Motivan bullshit started, was I had to save Gary Vee. I had to save Gary Vee, but I also had to save the Adam Levines. I had to save Donald Trump. I had to save Ryan Reynolds. I had to save Taylor Swift, who I'm still questioning whether I should save you or not. But I had to save the people who had given so much that the Democrats were now forcing into slavery. And were used by content creators to fuel their money bags. And that's not cool. Meaning they're all lip singing to Taylor Swift's music and capitalizing off of her while she's suffering. While those same people then judge her. While those same people then abuse her. While those same people judge her again. And it was seen in her previous cancel culture session that you all decided that you wanted as fan base to do to her, but you did it to Jake Gyllenhaal, and you still do it to, what's his name? You're still dealing with it. What is your name? I can picture your face. John Mayer. Who, just to let you know, those guys are in my generation, and Taylor's generation is just a different generation. It's like night and day. It's like so different. It's because the internet was inserted and introduced to where it like literally tore us apart. And so they had to do something to connect to people, and so they used sex and seduction to get the guy who already had the money. And I'm not talking about Taylor here. I'm talking about people like Mona Van, who's actually probably, 30, 33? Who would even go as far as to age herself, not just in age, but physically age herself so she could fit the role, so that Gary would approve of her, because she's constantly looking for his approval, like he's her father. Which is completely bizarre. Anywho, that's just a couple of things that I wanted to talk about, and I kind of like went around the block to discuss VFriends and how I am strategizing my version of brand, because my brand is really about being human. It's about educating people on not emotional ingredients, because emotional ingredients that were written in 12 and a half are all like the cushy frou-frou side. Now we're looking at the deep doo-doo dark shit, which is why this is not like blowing up overnight. Meaning I want people to really want to work to really have a good life, because it's not really that hard. Kim Kardashian and Mona Van make it hard. Do you understand that all you have to do is stop following them, stop agreeing to their bullshit, and instantly things in your life would change? The problem and the hard part is that you're so manipulated by it, and there's such a heavy fart cloud around them that we need to enlist big time people to stop them dead in their tracks. Meaning you're going to go watch the Super Bowl and then she's going to appear again. You're going to turn on your TV and there's going to be a commercial about the freaking Kardashians again. You're going to go over to some other place and you're going to see her ugly face on another billboard. You're going to watch Gary. See, Gary doesn't really understand this part. Is every time you look at Gary Vaynerchuk, you're looking at Mona Van's face. That's the dark shit now that you experience when you're watching his platform. And so when you start dating someone, you want to understand that you're affecting millions and millions of your followers, whether you care or you don't care. Now, the other aspect of all of this is also how we remove all this nasty energy is you have to clean up the political system. I'm not just talking about blue either. I'm talking about even in the red with prostitute girl from Denver who showed her titties and flipped off her civilians because she was drunk at a conference or a show because she thought she was in the Kardashian show. Because they're all looking for their 15 minutes of fame. We saw that today with the judge that was putting Donald Trump on the stand. Meaning he's over there sitting at the bench, looking at the camera with Trump sitting in the audience, and he's smiling at the camera as if he won an award. And if you're in a logical mind, you know that's very strange. That's not real. That's unlawful. He should be disbarred for that. Because if he does it there, he's done it to your citizens and he's put the wrong people in jail. You get that, right? Meaning all of his cases really should be looked over by a good judge to see what he has actually done to people. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on and on about this. The whole point of this conversation was to let you know that everything I just said has everything to do with me saving VeeFriends. Because Skeletor is the bad guy and VeeFriends are the good guys. They're all good guys, even the bad guys. The befuddled burglar is a dumbass. He's goofy as hell and he's not really evil, but he teaches people evil. The only one I would say is the worst is the perfect Persian cat. That's the evil card. That's the worst card that you could ever have, is the perfect Persian cat. But what these people are up to are worse than any befuddled burglar. So there are good and bad cards, I will say. Let me rephrase that. I want to let everybody know that we're looking at a balanced boat here. When you don't teach children that there's evil out there, that they surely will fail. And that's the problem I had with a lot of what Gary was teaching, is that he wasn't teaching the evils. He was only teaching be positive shit. But that's how you all think that you'll thrive, is by faking it. And then some of you were left without oars in a boat, and some of you were left with the extra oars because you were abusing other people when you were using it for nasty behavior. But also, you want to understand that the Democratic Party forced him into talking that way. Meaning, I do believe that Gary became famous during the Obama administration. True or false? Something for you to all to consider. That doesn't mean he agreed with everything that he had to do, because his life would have been at risk. It's just funny to me that you guys can't relate to being a person any longer. You just relate to characters in a television show known as the internet. Most people watch YouTube. However, no one can ever find the good stuff. Most people watch TikTok. Although you still can't find the good stuff. So you watch crap all night and then you end up with sleepless nights, while the rich people go to sleep with peace of mind? Question mark. How can you have peace of mind when you should be feeling very guilty about some of the things that you've done? I don't let it bother me. Well, you should let it bother you. And that's my strategy, is to be straight, direct, and honest, so we can have what? We can have real change, so we can change the world. You posting once every month is not going to change the world. Do you think Joan of Arc sat on her ass to change the world? Do you think that General Patton ran with roses to get the Jewish people safe? No. He had to battle, and we're at war right now, folks. And it's over VeeFriends. Because VeeFriends is the change. And if anything in my power, I will make sure that there are hundreds of videos, thousands of videos, and there already are, that I created for my kids, named Aspiring Alpaca, or Authentic Anaconda, or Awesome African Civet, or the Badass Bulldog, so that you all can learn how to be people again. To remind yourself of what it was like to be alive. even though they're trying to kill you every post and every word that comes out their mouth. We live in America, folks. You better remember that, because America is no longer the America you used to know with the Biden administration and the Obama regime standing behind it. Okay, that's all. I got a 45-minute video now. I'm not sure if it'll download today. It might actually download tomorrow. So hopefully you'll get it tonight, but you might get it tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see. Goodbye.